Have you ever been in this situation? You have a friend or a loved one who just refuses to give anime a shot. Isn't anime for kids or weebs, they say, but no, you tell them anime is for everyone, and that it's full of amazing stories and that they'll get hooked if they only give it a chance. So, after years of nudging and prodding, the day finally comes. They finally agree to sit down and watch it with you. So you pick one of your all-time favorites, and things are going great until it happens. That one character kicks in the door and starts shouting every line like they're in a screaming contest. Or someone falls into a girl's chest for no reason. You wince a little, they give you an awkward side eye, and just like that, the walls you were so carefully breaking down start stacking back up, and you become all too acutely aware of just how strange anime can be and why it can be so hard for some people to even get into. I recently watched a video by Big Tugs that looks at this topic from the outsider's perspective, and really it got me thinking about how this medium, one I have been engrossed in for most of my life, looks to those who aren't fans. In my experience, the problem usually falls into two categories. First, there are the outside perceptions, those ideas in people's mind that stop them from even giving it a chance. Then there are the actual hurdles, the things that, even as fans, we sometimes have to admit are, well, a bit much. In this video, we're going to talk about both, but don't worry, this isn't just a list of complaints. Quite the opposite, really, because at the end of the day, we know that it's worth it to give anime a shot and to look past some of its shortcomings. So whether you're a longtime fan trying to convert a friend, or someone who's just curious but hesitant to dive in, grab a seat. Let's talk about what makes anime just a little bit too much for some to get into. From the outside looking in, anime has some perceptions of the medium and its fans that stop a person from even considering giving it a shot. And truthfully, they have to be addressed in order for someone to even consider getting into it. For this, I see two major hurdles: the fans themselves and the perceived target audience. Because both of these together sort of form a wall that make it difficult for your friends to even dip their toes into the water. And if we can never get past it, then what's the point of even talking about the real issues inherent to anime? There's this misconception for some as to the fandom of anime, one that is taking a long time to shake, a sort of bad reputation that has been built up in people's minds that make it almost the pinnacle of nerddom to outsiders. To a regular Joe, anime can feel like it's surrounded by a cult of weirdos, who all demand that you put on the ceremonial garb of a graphic anime shirt, study the blade, and cover your room in questionable posters. We know this is a gross over-exaggeration, but if we can be real here, there is a little bit of truth that can be a turnoff for some. This breeds this unspoken fear of, if I like this, does that mean I have to become one of them? Where them is defined by the loudest or most visible fans. The ones with body pillows, those who make JoJo poses and say baka in class. It makes the whole medium feel harder to approach. But the truth is, anime isn't one thing, and neither are its fans. There's room for casual viewers, genre dabblers, and yes, even the fully committed nerds with a shelf full of waifu figurines. Because at the end of the day, anime is for everyone, just like movies or video games. Of course, like with those mediums as well, there's always those who take it further than others. And I do think people's minds are beginning to shift on their idea of what an anime fan is. Yet even if this is no longer a barrier, I still believe there's still one more perspective that walls people off from what anime has to offer, stemming from a core belief that, well, animation is a children's medium, or that if it's for adults, it's relegated to comedies like South Park or Family Guy. Sure, this mindset has been shifting, helped in part by the popularity of shows like Arcane, Attack on Titan, and the Spider-Verse movies. But considering the West's history with animation, it's a tough perception to crack. Anime also doesn't really help its case, with its bright colors, school uniforms, and exaggerated expressions. It's easy to see how it's still hard for outsiders to wrap their head around the idea that anime is nothing more than children's media. But here's the thing, some of the cute, loud, or bright aspects of anime don't always tell the whole story. You'll see mature themes wrapped in cute aesthetics, or serious storylines set in high schools. Not because they're childish, but because that's simply part of the storytelling shorthand in Japan. That very clash between visual style and emotional substance can be confusing at first, but it's also part of what makes anime so unique once you can read past the surface level. The truth is that anime is a medium, not a genre. It's not one single thing that can be broadly categorized. It can be silly, dark, philosophical, romantic, violent, or even, yes, for kids. But to someone coming in cold, that depth isn't always obvious, masked by the garish nature of anime. But it's that depth, that symphony of extremes at the heart of anime that makes it unlike anything else out there. The truth is, anime isn't for kids, it's for everyone. And just because at first glance it might seem like a child's medium, the reality is that it goes a lot deeper than that. But let's say your friend gets past these perceptions. I mean, they know you and you watch anime, so how true can their misleading ideas be? So they give it a shot, and this is where they hit the concrete hurdles, the issues with anime that even you or I notice. If you've ever tried to recommend anime to someone unfamiliar with it, you probably know exactly where this is going. Some over-the-top moment or a scene with unnecessary fan service. And just like that, you can feel them pull back. It's frustrating because you know how much range the medium has, but to someone new, one awkward moment can undo everything before they have time to get invested. The first of these issues is fan service, moments of sexualization that often feel out of place. An unnecessary angle just so we can get an underwear shot or a drawn-out bath scene. It can be jarring, especially when it cuts into a serious story. Even when it's played for comedy or parody, it rarely reads that way to newcomers. Instead, it comes off as immature or worse yet, exploitative. It's not a universal issue, but it shows up often enough to be a barrier, especially when it's someone's first exposure. I think of Dan, a series that is wildly creative, full of heart and visually stunning, but is one that falls into this concept of putting high school students into some precarious situations in service of the fans. Shortly into the first episode, Momo, one of the main characters, is put into a situation that's rather uncomfortable. Sure, it resolves quickly and what follows is a fantastic ride, but if someone turned it off right there and missed what the show really had to offer, well, I wouldn't blame them. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong about sexuality, but anime does have this tendency to push it in ways that just feel, well, kinda out of place and forced. To me, it's not something I even think about anymore, but it became apparent when I finally succeeded in pushing my wife to get into anime. And that outside perspective has really made me see it in a new light, one that I had become desensitized to over the years. These moments, while often brief, can pull someone out of it, can add unnecessary embarrassment, or really be revealing of some deeper issues of misogyny in anime. But we have to be aware of how this aspect can be damaging to anime's fight to be widely accepted. And then there's the tone, an aspect that I believe is honestly the biggest hurdle for some. You know what I mean? Anime, for all its merits, can be loud, bright, and garish. The humor often leans into slapstick shouting or rapid-fire delivery, with bright lines, big heads, and extreme facial expressions. It's part of the style, and over time you begin to tune into this frequency of humor and even appreciate these comedic moments in between the more heartbreaking scenes. But for someone used to a different rhythm of storytelling, it can feel chaotic at best and grating at worst. And it doesn't stop at comedy. The emotional swings can be just as jarring, constantly spiraling into over-the-top melodrama, where every emotion is played at its maximum. It can feel like the volume's always turned up, both literally and emotionally, and if you're not already accustomed to it, it's easy to get lost in the noise. But here's the thing, anime doesn't really do subtle. Characters wear their emotions on their sleeve, whether it's joy, rage, heartbreak, or embarrassment. And that expressiveness is baked into the DNA of the medium. What feels over the top to a newcomer is often just a different emotional language. In Western media, silence and restraint are usually signs of great nuanced acting. In anime, big reactions are how characters express themselves, which makes sense when you think about it, considering most anime was first a black and white manga, often needing to convey emotions and ideas in small panels. That said, when it's your first time tuning in, well, context means nothing when someone is screaming while the screen explodes with motion lines. It's understandable that a person might just assume the whole show is just noise, and unfortunately miss the substance behind it. But if you can ride out the initial whiplash, you start to see the heart behind the volume, because that same energy is put into everything. It's why anime is one of the most emotional mediums. And I get it if that's just too much for some, because yes, anime is rarely a medium of subtlety, but if you can adjust, it's worth every second. So yeah, anime can be a tough sell, not because it lacks depth or artistry, but because it has some barriers, both perceived and real, that can be hard to peel back before you're able to enjoy it. They're not flaws so much as growing pains for anyone new to the medium. But once you do click with it, once you find the right show that speaks your language, it opens up a whole world of storytelling that just hits in a way like nothing else does. Thanks for watching, and if you have a good recommendation for someone's first anime or the anime that got you hooked, share it below. Let's start a conversation and get people into this wonderful medium. And with that, friends, I will catch you later. Bye.